The Legend of Zelda is a video game where you control a character named Link. Link must go on a quest to save a princess named Zelda from the evil Ganon. The game takes place in a magical land called Hyrule, and is divided into many different areas.
It's a huge problem.
Link must explore each area, find items like a sword and shield, and battle monsters along the way.
There's definitely a key in here, isn't there?
These monsters can hurt Link, so he must be careful. The game is considered one of the 9 essential adventure games on the NES because it was one of the first games to have an open world where players could explore different areas in any order they wanted. The game also had a lot of secrets and hidden items to discover, which made it fun for players to keep playing and exploring.
There's 4. There's 5.
Metroid is a video game that was released on the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES, in 1986. The player takes control of a character named Samus Aran, who is a space bounty hunter on a mission to destroy the Metroids. Metroids are dangerous creatures that can suck the life out of other living beings. The game takes place on an alien planet called Zebes, which is filled with obstacles and enemies that Samus must defeat in order to progress through the game. One reason why Metroid is considered one of the essential adventure games on NES is because it was one of the first games to introduce non-linear gameplay. This means that the player can explore the game world in any order they choose, instead of following a set path. The game also introduced a unique power-up system, where the player can collect items that enhance Samus' abilities, such as the ability to shoot missiles or morph into a ball to navigate through tight spaces. Overall, Metroid is an important game because it helped shape the adventure genre in video games. Its non-linear gameplay and unique power-up system were innovative for its time and still hold up today. Castlevania II: Simon's Quest is a classic video game released in 1987 for the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES. In this game, the player takes control of Simon Belmont, a vampire hunter who must explore a dangerous world and defeat Dracula. The game is an adventure game, which means that the player must explore different areas, talk to characters, and solve puzzles to progress. The game also has RPG elements, as the player can collect experience points and use them to increase Simon's power. One of the reasons why Castlevania II: Simon's Quest is considered one of the 9 essential adventure games on NES is because of its unique gameplay and story. The game introduced many new features to the series, such as a day and night cycle, non-linear progression, and multiple endings. The game's story also added depth to the Castlevania universe by exploring Simon's internal struggle as he battles the curse of Dracula. Overall, Castlevania II: Simon's Quest is a beloved classic that is remembered for its innovative gameplay, engaging story, and challenging difficulty. It is a must-play for any fan of adventure games or the Castlevania series. Dragon Warrior is a classic adventure game for the NES. The player takes on the role of a hero who must explore a fantasy world filled with monsters and treasures. The goal is to defeat the evil Dragon Lord and save the kingdom of Alefgard. The game features turn-based battles where the player chooses to attack, defend, or use magic spells. Along the way, the player can recruit other characters to join your party and upgrade their skills with experience points. Dragon Warrior is one of the 9 essential adventure games on NES because of its engaging storytelling, challenging gameplay, and memorable characters. The game's influence on the RPG genre can still be felt today, making it a must-play for any fan of classic video games. Final Fantasy is a role-playing video game series that started in 1987. The game is set in a fantasy world, where players control a group of characters on a quest to save the world from an evil force. The game has a strong focus on storytelling, character development, and strategic combat. Players must explore the game world, fight monsters, and complete quests to progress through the game. Final Fantasy is considered one of the essential adventure games on NES because of its influence on the genre and its storytelling. The game was one of the first RPGs to have a strong narrative, with characters that players could care about. It also introduced many of the RPG mechanics that are still used today, such as experience points, character classes, and turn-based combat. The game has been highly influential on the video game industry as a whole and has spawned numerous sequels and spin-offs. Crystalis is an adventure video game released in 1990 for the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES.
After defeating enough enemies, you'll progress.
It tells the story of an unnamed hero who wakes up from cryogenic sleep in a post-apocalyptic world and must save the world from the evil Dragonia.
One of the most in Shields,
the gameplay features action, exploration, and puzzles, with the hero using swords, magic, and items to defeat enemies and overcome obstacles.
The most brilliant part of this combination
Crystalis is considered one of the essential adventure games on NES because of its engaging story, challenging gameplay, and innovative use of items and magic. The game was praised for its beautiful graphics and music, along with its unique twist on the typical RPG formula.
On the other hand, one hope
it also gave players the freedom to explore the world and choose their own path, making it a classic in the adventure game genre. Shadowgate is an adventure game for the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES, that was released in 1989. In the game, the player controls a hero who explores a castle filled with dangerous creatures and traps. The goal of the game is to find the evil warlock's lair and defeat him. Along the way, the player must solve puzzles and collect items to progress. Shadowgate is considered one of the essential adventure games on NES because of its unique gameplay and challenging puzzles. The game's graphics and sound are also praised for creating a dark and eerie atmosphere that immerses the player in the game's world. The game's difficulty and the need to carefully manage resources, such as torches and spells, make it a challenging and rewarding experience for players. Shadowgate's legacy has also continued with remakes and sequels that have been released on various platforms, including the Nintendo Switch. Deja Vu is a mystery adventure game on NES where the player takes on the role of a man who wakes up in a bathroom with no memory of how he got there. He quickly discovers that he has been framed for murder and must explore the city to find clues to clear his name. The gameplay is presented in a point-and-click style where the player interacts with various objects and people to progress the story. The game stands out in the list of its official 9 essential adventure games on NES due to its unique setting and immersive gameplay. The player must not only solve puzzles but also use their deduction skills to piece together the mystery. The game also has multiple endings depending on the player's choices, adding to the replayability factor. Despite its age, Deja Vu remains a classic adventure game that still holds up today. Maniac Mansion is a video game released on the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES, in 1990. The game is about a group of teenagers who sneak into a creepy mansion to rescue a friend who has been kidnapped by an evil scientist. The player can choose 3 out of 7 characters to play as, each with their own unique abilities. Maniac Mansion is one of the 9 essential adventure games on NES because it was one of the first games to use a point-and-click interface, which allowed players to interact with the game world in a more natural way. The game also had multiple endings, depending on the choices the player made, which was an innovative feature at the time. Maniac Mansion was also known for its humor and parodies of pop culture, such as a poster of a band called the Laverne and Shirleys. Overall, Maniac Mansion was a groundbreaking game that influenced many future adventure games.